Prices are rising slightly, but can we trust this rally? Did we hit the bottom? We'll look at sales numbers, average prices, and inventory levels. We'll also be looking at this new trend of properties selling over their asking price, as well as covering some of the latest real estate news. My name is Roch St-Georges. I'm a real estate broker in Ottawa. I help families and individuals with the purchase, sale, or rental of real estate in our city. February saw a total of 886 sales. Sales are down 40% year over year. December and January sales were at levels last seen in 2015. This is despite the population of Ottawa-Gatineau growing by about 10% during this time. The price of the average freehold residential property was $709,000 in February, representing a 5% increase month over month. It's the first increase we've seen since July, leading some to believe that this could be the bottom. The average freehold property, however, is still down 15.2% year over year. The median price of freehold properties was $649,000 in February. The average condo price was $412,000, relatively unchanged compared to January. Average price is down 12% year over year. The median price was $390,000. How quickly are properties selling? If we look at the continuous days on the market, which takes into account any time the property may have been removed from the market and then relisted following a price reduction, well, residential freehold properties are selling in 62 days, while condos are taking 63 days to sell. This is up from 17 and 25 days from the same time last year. This change is quite drastic, but just remember that we are also seeing more properties sell with conditions in the offers, which means properties stay on the market longer while the buyer fulfills their conditions. Let's look at the sales to new listings ratio. This indicator is used to give us insights into the market and let us know if the market is overheating. People tend to agree that around 40% and below the market would be in a buyer's market, while 60% or above one would consider the market to be heated and competitive for buyers, thus considered to be a seller's market. In this chart, we can see that we've now been in the green zone, which can be referred to as a balanced market zone. We also notice that since 2019 or so, the market of Ottawa has mostly been in a seller's market, with these sales to new listings ratios being quite high. Little supply with lots of buyers generally means an increase in price. This is exactly what happened if we look at the red line on the graph showing the average Ottawa residential and condominium price. It really started to pick up pace around early 2019 and accelerated in 2020. Looking at our home and condo inventory, we currently have 2,380 active listings on the market. This remains relatively unchanged since January. Although we've seen huge increases in mortgage rate, for the time being, we're not seeing signs of homeowners panicking and selling their homes. The month of February saw an increase in sales when compared to January, meaning we now have fewer months of inventory. At this time, it would essentially take 2.9 months for all inventory to sell if we didn't see any new listings come to market. In this graph, we can see the history of number of active listings in red. We've been trending down for many years with less listings being available on the market. This has obviously meant more competition for buyers and translated into sharp increases in the average property price, which we can see in blue. This chart clearly shows times where inventory hits historic lows. What follows in the following months tend to be a spike in prices. Let's think about this. Historically low interest rates have certainly fueled the market frenzy over the last few years. Another factor was the scarcity of properties in the market turning into a seller's market. This converted into an increase in price throughout the city. Inventory seems to be somewhat improving, and we are now finding ourselves at levels last seen in 2019 before the COVID pandemic and rate cuts. So rates are now high, inventory has also increased, but yet our prices are still right here. Could we see prices going lower? That's certainly a possibility. One trend that we've talked about here in these videos is stories of properties across Canada selling for over their asking price. Folks, this does happen in Ottawa. Properties can sell for over the asking price. Just know that property prices are still down year over year, and these folks are not selling at 2021 or early 2022 prices. In February, 128 properties sold over the asking price. This represents about 15% of all properties sold. If you're in the market to buy real estate, there is a 1 in 7 chance that you may have to pay over the asking price to secure a property. Now, most over and under, we know some properties are selling for over the asking price. I looked at what sold on the Ottawa Real Estate Board for what was the highest dollar over. There was one property that sold for $251,000 over the asking price. This was a large luxury property. When it comes to properties selling for under the asking price, there was one property where the owner received $549,900 under the asking price. This was a dwelling on a large parcel with many acres. It's been a while since I've shown this chart. We have the average original list price in green and the average sell price in blue. Since about June, we've seen sellers come to market with a price that is much higher than what the home eventually sells for. They often list high and reduce their prices as the property sits on the market without finding a buyer. In January and February, we've been seeing sellers list their property on the MLS for prices last seen in March and April, back when the Bank of Canada had the benchmark rate at around 1%. We're now at 4.5%, so buyers are paying a higher interest to finance the purchase. In my opinion, this makes no sense. Sellers appear to still be in denial that the market has shifted. Buyers are somewhat aware and seem to some extent show patience in negotiating the prices downwards. On average, however, sellers are receiving 97.4% of their original asking price. This is down from the 105% seen in January 2021 and 2022. I'll be putting out a separate video on the rental market, so if you're a tenant or investor and want to be informed of when I post that video, be sure to hit the subscribe button, and while you're at it, hit the like button below. We are still seeing stories online and posts from people who bought pre-construction properties during the pandemic at high prices and are now no longer able to qualify for a mortgage and take possession of the property. These purchases often are worth less than what the buyers paid for them a year or two ago. Here's a story that was shared by a Twitter user, Shazy Goalie. It's a story from a Toronto Facebook group I wanted to share with you, since things here in Ottawa on the surface don't look too bad, but when you dig a little bit, things aren't that rosy. To sum it up, 7 people got together to buy a new pre-construction condo with a 10% down, with the intention to sell the property before the closing date. They did this during the 2021 frenzy. Now, with the current market condition, the price of the unit has dropped and they are now struggling to qualify. They are now asking for advice on how to add an additional 3 people to their mortgage for a total of 10 people. This person writes that some folks are small business owners, others are self-employed. These facts alone would be worrying for most, but this individual seems not fazed by the issue and is still somehow wondering if he buys another property, if he'd qualify for a first-time home buyer program, if this current purchase is made under a corporation name and is made as a rent and is converted to a rental property. I mean, this stuff is just mind-blowing. So this is what is happening under the hood. Now, there's a ton of real estate news that came out. We saw a Vancouver developer who's seeking creditor protection, citing approximately $700 million in outstanding debt. Coromandel properties are having difficulty making interest payments on their loans. According to court document, the company is involved in 16 real estate projects in Vancouver. Now, consumer insolvency filing is also up in Canada. In January, they are up 33.7% when compared to a year ago. When looking at business insolvency filings in January, those were up 55.4% compared to a year ago. Here in Ottawa, we saw Highbridge Construction operating out of the Orleans area suddenly shut its door, leaving many with unfinished projects and many clients left wondering if they'll ever see their money again. Finally, we also saw FairSquare Realty, formerly known as Purple Bricks, a for sale by owner website and brokerage, shut down its operation in Canada. This company, which was owned and acquired by Desjardins, it was acquired in 2020 for $60.5 million. They say the decision was difficult to make. Desjardins made efforts to promote FairSquare's activity, but the rapid deterioration of the real estate market outside Quebec, notably in Ontario, and its economic model no longer allowed us to continue operation. So the amount of sales is just too low to keep this discount brokerage alive, so they had to close their door. Although our real estate market here in Ottawa appears to be somewhat stable for the time being, and we are seeing a small uptick in average sell prices, in other areas of the country and the province, things seem to be a bit more shaky. Where we go from here may just depend on if interest rates go higher and how long they stay elevated for. If you'd like for me to cover any subject in future videos, please be sure to comment below. If you'd like to discuss the sale, purchase, or rental of a property here in Ottawa, please reach out to me using information on the screen. Si vous aimeriez discuter d'achat, de vente ou bien de location de propriété, mes coordonnées sont à l'écran. Thank you. Merci.